Hi there, Dr. Carfagno. It's summertime. So one of the big things that happen in Arizona, our dry heat, is triple digits. And one of the things that we deal with a lot as doctors is the prevention of heat or managing the heat issues. In my practice as an internal medicine, sports medicine physician, we see a lot more as I'm right on the spot in the field and on the venue. A lot of these teams and games and races, as most of you all know. So I work with the Ironman and Rock and Roll Marathon and different cities. And one of the big things that we do see in our medical tents is heat issues. Now, in Arizona here, it's typically our so-called peak summer months, and I want to give you a few tips here today to kind of maybe prevent that and offset that, so you can keep going on in a healthy way of life that you like to do and stay in training healthy. So, number one is really a simple common sense: staying indoors. It's really not very advisable at this point because one, your body's not acclimated, nor is it able to sustain not just the heat loss, but the core body temperature increases that are sustained in our valley. And why is that? Because we're not used to training that suddenly. We get this basically a kind of a moderate temperature, and there's a kind of a spike up in May where we see increased temperatures, and you haven't acclimatized that. It's similar we see with, like, say, high altitude illness or some other conditions where it's acclimatization. And that's a big issue. And I can tell you many times in my medical coverage, we would see lots of heat illnesses in different cities, whether it's a heat index, which is a combination of humidity and heat. Be that for its may, get your workouts indoors or go up north or do something like in an air conditioning, comfortable environment. The other thing is, if you do go outdoors, do it right in the morning when the convection and the radiation isn't that pronounced. The asphalt carries a lot of that heat. It's like a little microwave of heat just kind of bouncing around, and your body tends to absorb that. Same thing if you have dogs. You all know I'm a big dog animal lover, hot paws, right? So try to go on grass early morning or later in the evening. Two, hydration. Now, a lot of people will give advice on hydration just as a general advice. What we typically do, and goes along a little bit with the societal guidelines like Gatorade, National Academy of Sports Medicine, ACSM guidelines, 20 to 32 ounces is typically what we use, definitely at our races. That's per hour. Now, it may be more, maybe less, depending upon your sweat rate. Most people don't do a sweat rate test, but you're going to have to measure that on yourself. But typically, a ballpark figure is 20 to 32 ounces an hour. If you want more information on that, we'd be happy to consult with you on that. But every 16 to 20 ounces of weight loss before and after an exercise session is equivalent to about 1 pound. So that's on average, but happy to dial that in. That's what we use with resuscitation when we see folks in our medical tents, and it helps out with resuscitation, whether it's oral fluids or IV fluids. Number three, check in with your doctor, healthcare provider. I say this loosely again, but it's not loose, but people have either medical conditions or unknown medical conditions. They haven't been seen for a general checkup in a long time, which includes prevention, cancer, cardiac screening, orthopedic screening, as well as wellness exams and blood work. So it's a good time to sit down and discuss this with your provider. Lastly, and I put this as a almost a scare tactic, but again, it's disposition. Disposition meaning, where do I go? Many times, again, being out on the field, I'm going to be telling my athletes and the patient, you're going to probably go home, which is what we all want to hear about. But there are folks that don't want to go home or not fit to go home. We have to send to the emergency room. And from there, they may go into the hospital, into the wards to be admitted for blood work, IVs. They may have more significant conditions. They may have to go to the intensive care unit rarely, but that happens. We see it. So you can imagine some of these folks out there in the heat running the risk of going through that algorithm. And I want to say that because that's really what happens real life. We want to keep you safe and at home after your workout, hydrated, electrolytes are stable, and that's how we do it. So any questions, I would love to talk to you. give us a call. But I hope you have a safe couple months here in hot Arizona.